I'm taking Green Bay. I've said it last week and the week before. I've been on the Packers kind of wagon, so I kind of feel obligated just to stick with them. That Tampa Bay defense worries me a little bit. They beat the Packers pretty good. I think it was in week 4, I think, when they played. So there is a little bit of a revenge factor. Green Bay is at home for this one. So we'll kind of see if the weather kind of plays any effect into this. I know it'll probably be cold. They were saying about snow. So we'll kind of see that. But Brady's used to playing in snow. I don't really think that'll affect him too much. But it's going to be a great matchup. I'm going to put, a little bit on Green Bay and then watch for those in-game live opportunities and take it from there. But both these games are really, really, really good. So it's a tough call, but I'm leaning Green Bay at this time.
What are you thinking, Wes?
On the opposite. I had Tampa money line last week, and I also had Tampa in that over 10.5 first half. So I'm going back to the well with the first half play. It's 12.5 this week, and I like that. I think that that's a pretty safe one. But Tampa's rushing attack has been really good the last few weeks. And I don't think Green Bay's going to give the ball to them twice in the first half like they did in their first meeting. But at the same time, I don't know that Green Bay's going to be able to run the ball well enough to keep the ball away from Brady, who's just red hot. And he hasn't even used the full extent of these wide receivers. And there was a lot of drop balls this past game. I mean, there was at least 14 points left on the field this past week. And I think that those catches get made this week against a much softer Green Bay defense. And so I'm on Tampa with the points, and I'm on some money line. Plus, I like them in the first half in this game. And I think it'll be really cool to see Tampa in a home Super Bowl with no fans in the stands.
Well, it is funny you mentioned that, and I didn't realize it until earlier this week that both these games are rematches. Both of these two teams have played earlier in the season. When you mentioned last week you mentioned Tampa Bay, and of course I also had that winner because I had the over team totals on all of them. But in the last 5 out of 6 in the first half, they've scored 13 or more. So the fact that it's at 12.5 is fine with me. But in the second half, they've also scored 13 or more in 5 of the last 5. So that's a pretty balanced offense. And of course, in those 5 games, every single game, they've scored over 30 points. Now, in their last 9, not one person, not one team, not one NFL organization has scored 28 points or more. In the last 9 games, Tampa Bay has allowed 27 or less. Now, when I start seeing 7, 8, and 9s in what a team's doing, that's consistent because there's home games there. There's away games. There's a little bit of everything there. And those are pretty good numbers. When I looked at Green Bay, in the first half, they have scored 14 or more in 12 of 12. So that instantly, I'm leaning towards the over and doing the same thing I did with the Tampa Bay game that didn't work out as well as I would have liked because, of course, all those picks. It's really hard when you have 3 interceptions to get any points on the board. And, of course, neither their team total nor the over for the game was a winner last week. But that first half was really nice because I had loaded up on that first half over, and it was 25.5. So that last field goal that made it 13-13 made it a winner for me. So that was pretty exciting. Getting back to Green Bay, in the second half, they allowed 10 or less in 4 or 5. In the game, they allowed 24 or less, 6 of 6. And in the game, they scored 30 plus 7 of 8. So what you got is you got 2 good teams that are used to scoring and not letting the other team score. And as we both know, or all 3 of us know, when you have teams doing the opposite, only one of those things can come true. And that really is one of the main reasons that I'm going to put some little stuff in for this game, but I'm going to do what John says and what Wes does all the time. I'm going to spend a lot of my stuff doing live action and really allow, like you said, what if Tampa Bay scores first, right? And they're getting points. All of a sudden, if you do like Green Bay, you might be able to get them getting 1.5 points. I mean, there's all kinds of things you like. If Green Bay scores first, say Green Bay goes up 10-0, given that 3.5. That Tampa Bay money line is going to go a lot higher than it is now. All right, so we're going to go to Sunday's game. Because he is a Kansas City Chiefs season ticket holder, they are playing in Kansas City. Vicky asked me, are you going? But you didn't get tickets for the beginning, right? But did they do anything for this, or what did they do?
They offered me the package, pretty much the same price, but it's an odd thing because normally I would sell the first round of the playoffs because at this point, 3 years in a row, we expect to be in the conference championship. But there's odd restrictions. You have to buy your tickets in a pod. and I was able to get my seats if I wanted them, but it's a pot of 4. So, and I can't sell it unless I sell it to a group committed to taking 4, and a little bit different with StubHub and everything else. So no, I'm not going to the game. And there's too much risk out there. I want to do the right thing and put this Rona business behind us.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it that trying to stay alive as your number one goal is very draining. And I'm not talking about being in Afghanistan or, on the front lines of a military coup. I'm talking about just sitting in my house in San Diego and having to put up with people that are stupid and do stupid things. And when there's alcohol involved, the stupidity of the human race goes up quite dramatically. So I could imagine that. But let's talk about the game. Wes, what do you see?
So I did a lot of breakdown on this, and it's a 3-point spread. So basically, you're either taking money line dog or you're laying the 3 on the favorite. But I took the 3 best quarterbacks that the Chiefs played against this year, which I think we would all agree are Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Josh Allen. And when I looked at what the Chiefs did in that game, a lot of people want to dog the Chiefs defense, but the Chiefs averaging in those 3 games against the best quarterbacks were 166 rush yards and held their opponents to an average of 74 rushing yards. And they owned the time of possession 27-23. And if you're going to beat Mahomes, you've got to keep him off the field. That Buffalo defense is not very strong. And the last time the Chiefs played Buffalo, they didn't have Le'Veon Bell. They weren't playing him. He wasn't used to the system. And Edwards-Helaire hung over 150 yards on them. So I like the Chiefs in this game. If Mahomes is able to even crawl on the field, I like the Chiefs in this game. I just don't think Buffalo's going to have enough defense to stop them. Buffalo had 10 possessions last week and only scored 3 times. The Chiefs, minus a kill-the-clock kneel down and a missed field goal, they scored on 5 out of 8 possessions. So there's really no stopping them.
All right, John, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm going to be on the Buffalo money line situation, and also I got, like I said before, steak dinner on this game. But I feel the same way. Buffalo's defense, I think they're going to have to send some pressure to Mahomes. I was watching, especially the first half. Cleveland got stuck at where they were playing such soft zone defense, and Mahomes was able to read that and pick them apart, no problem. I think that Buffalo's going to have to start sending some guys in blitzes. Maybe the foot issue, maybe get him moving out of the pocket. But if you give Mahomes time, he's going to eat you up. And so this, on the flip side of that, Josh Allen is going to have to, keep getting first downs, keep Mahomes off the field. That's really the only thing you can do. Granted, if he's healthy, you have to keep Mahomes off the field and limit their possessions. And obviously they're going to have to score touchdowns, not field goals. So we'll see if they're going to be able to bring any pressure and what that pressure does. But if they're just sitting back playing this kind of weird soft zone on them, Patrick Mahomes is going to eat them up, and I think it'll be a long day for him.
And it's funny because last week with Buffalo, they didn't even fake like they were. My wife Vicky learned the word play action. Mm-hmm. She was watching the Showtime or HBO that show. So I tried to explain what play action was. And I said, basically, play action is when you fake a run and throw a pass. But to do that, you got to have the run. They weren't even putting somebody in the backfield with them. They were just sitting there throwing the ball to him. But you know what? I don't know, Wes, the Chiefs' defense in the backfield, they're pretty good, right?
The Chiefs are really good against the pass, and it's usually because they put the opposing team in predictable situations. So they're really good against the pass. They can sack the quarterback. Another fun fact about this game: the last time the Chiefs played Buffalo, Kelsey only had 20 yards, and Hill had like 35 yards. The Chiefs defense, they can get after the quarterback, and it's because they jump on top. Now you got to pass to catch up, because if you're putting up field goals and they're putting up touchdowns and they're taking 9 minutes to do it when they choose to, you have to, and their defense is just in positions to win. So,
yeah, I'm looking at this game, and I haven't made a decision on this game yet because, as John mentioned, I've been riding Buffalo, and they they've really won a lot of games for me. So I really like him. That Buffalo and over, when we were in Vegas,
Yep.
and that Buffalo and over parlay came in, and we won all that money. We were at, at the MGM at Wolfgang Puck's restaurant, and it was just you don't forget moments like that, and they really do. Those teams, you don't want to get emotional. You want to keep your bets level-headed, but it's really hard when you like somebody and they've won you money. But and Kansas City, look at Kansas City against the spread. Even though they covered the first half and the second half last week, right, against the spread. No, they covered the first half last week. They didn't cover the game in the second, but they covered the first half. So their numbers went up because remember it was like 3-19-2 or whatever it was, So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But what I wanted to do is spend some time talking about my favorite bet this time of year, which is the prop play of the first touchdown scored. Now, what I'll normally do is I'll look to isolate somebody, and then I'll not only bet him to score the first touchdown of the game, but I'll also bet him to score the last touchdown of the game, and I'll also bet them to score their first touchdown for their team. Now, the first and second one, the first touchdown of the game and the last touchdown of the game, they're going to be pretty much the same odds, where the first touchdown for their team is going to be less odds, but it allows you to at least have a ticket open. And there was a game this weekend, right, where there wasn't a touchdown in the first half. This past weekend, wasn't that the case? I think it was. I don't remember which game it was, but it was. I remember saying to Vicky that if you had the first team to score, you were nervous. Oh, it was the Baltimore-Buffalo game. Baltimore-Buffalo were tied at 3 at halftime. So here's some of the stats that I took for my notes on the first player to score. In their last 3 games for Tampa Bay, Fournette's the only person on the roster that has scored twice, 2 or more touchdowns in a game. What's up with Mike Evans' health? Does either you know, John, do you know about Mike Evans?
I haven't heard. I know he's kind of been questionable with certain injuries. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago he kind of had that weird awkward thing with his leg. I think they tried to throw him a touchdown and he wound up like I think he got his foot stuck in something with his leg or his knee possibly. I mean, he looked fine, but I still obviously think he's not 100%. I'm pretty sure he'll play, but to what extent he'll be, even if he's at 50 or 60, you still got to put him on the field if you're Tampa Bay, just because he's that good. But yeah, I think he had some type of knee damage, if I remember correctly.
Right. Then I went to Green Bay, and Green Bay has Adams, right? Adams has been pretty good. He's got 18 touchdowns. He's got more touchdowns than anybody else, receiving or running, of the rest of the 4 teams left. Then I went to Buffalo, and Diggs has 5 touchdowns in his last 3 games. But when I went over and I looked at Kansas City, and again, I'm not going to tell Wes anything he doesn't know already. In their last 3 games, they've only scored 7 touchdowns. Buffalo had 8 alone in Week 17. Now, one of them was a pick 6 or a scoop and score, but they had 8 touchdowns. So their offense, Wes, is definitely not clicking. There's no doubt about that.
No, which is scary because they're doing enough. The value in this game, if we're looking at players to score for their team, just an anytime scorer, take a look at Sammy Watkins. He's on the practice field for the first time in a little while, and he played for Buffalo, and he did not play the first game against them. And Andy Reid, he's got an ego, and he knows that his guys do, and he wants to give them the opportunity to stick it to his players. Love him for a reason. There's probably a good value play on Sammy Watkins being an anytime scorer because Buffalo tied up Tyreek Hill and they tied up Kelsey pretty good. I think you'll find value on Sammy.
Yeah, and that's another play, and that it doesn't matter when it comes. It doesn't matter when it comes. It's anytime. That having that first one though, it really if you have a wide receiver and he catches the ball and gets knocked out at the 2, you're done. If you have a running back and the wide receiver gets knocked out at the 2, you're in good shape. And it's the same way because all of these quarterbacks are not necessarily the same. But Mahomes can score touchdowns. We know Buffalo, he's one of the leading rushers for touchdowns on their team. Rodgers can score, and Brady had a touchdown in the last game.